Hello everyone, it's Jackie Ballheis with Clumpin' Stampers.
And I'm Jesi, and welcome back to our Card Making 201 series, and we are on class number 5.
Yeah, and we are so excited for this class because we are going to introduce you to the Stampin' Cut Emboss Machine. This is kind of the granddaddy of all tools to elevate your card making. We're going to show you how to use it to cut out images with dies and how to emboss. I feel like if you are like hook, line, and sinker ready to, you're going to continue making cards, this is kind of the next step must have. I use mine on almost every single card I make. So I hope you're going to like playing with the machine. So let's go ahead and flip the camera down and we're going to show it to you and give you tons of tips and tricks for doing all the different things with it. Alrighty, we're going to start by just showing you the plates that come with it, because when you get it, you're going to have what's called the platform or the base plate, and notice that it's numbered. So that's number 1. This little one, mine's pretty warped. This will happen totally good with it. It's just a thin one. This is for our dies. It's number 2. And this is for embossing. It's 4. And then you always get 3 of the clear plate, or 2 of the clear plates. That
2 of the 3s.
Of the 3s, yeah. Now, the key with this is on your base plate, it will always tell you, if you forget, exactly how to make what we call the sandwich, how we put things together before we run it through the machine.
Okay.
So since we are going to start with some embossing folders, I want to just take a look at these. As you'll notice, they kind of come in different sizes, and there's really no rhyme nor reason as far as I know. You just kind of whatever they come out in. But you'll see they have texture on the inside, and most of them will be listed in the catalog or online as 3D embossing folders.
Okay.
It just means it's a really deep, you get lots of texture out of it, where I think this one is a regular, and you can feel the difference.
Oh, it's way thinner.
It's way thinner, and that's important to know. If you ever try to put it through your machine and you're not getting an impression at all, it's probably one of the thinner ones, so you have to do your sandwich different.
Okay.
So there's not many of those. I think this might even be about the only one we have right now.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and let's start. I like that one. We'll do that one. So if we're going to do embossing, what we got to do is look on here, and it'll tell you with the 3D embossing folders, we need number 1.
Which is this big guy.
And then we put our cardstock inside our embossing folder. And then you always put the fold to go in your machine first. And then on top of that is a plate number 4.
Okay.
So that is your sandwich. So bring in the machine. And
It's a big guy.
I know, we don't have a lot of room to work here, so we got a lot of in and out going. And then you're going to just kind of give it a little push, get it started, turn the handle, and crank it through.
Oh, that's pretty smooth.
It's pretty smooth. And we're a little slippery at our table here, but normally there's good gripper feet on there, so it goes through nice. And pull it out.
Oh.
Look at the texture on your cardstock.
That's nice.
I know. This is just one of those things that I feel like adds so much to your cards when you start using texture. You can see the swirls, the plaid. These are just some of them. It's not even all of the different prints. But you can see how it adds a lot instead of just that plain cardstock.
Yeah, it does.
So let's take a look at a card here. Again, instead of putting them together, I'm going to bring both of these in here. If you remember this one, this is from our coloring class.
Yes, it is.
And so there was the design we had. Well, for this here, I took that same card design and I just added some embossed cardstock. So we have a layer, you can see the texture. And then this, instead of using designer series paper, is another piece of just texture.
From this.
So again, I think it's all about the touchy-feely. It just adds a lot to it. So I use embossing folders all the time. I think it's easy and quick. So we're still staying in that quick and easy card making, but adds a lot to it. So that's the basics and how you use embossing folders.
I like it.
Okay, so let's move some things and then let's talk about some dies. Okay, the first dies we're going to use are what I just call these standalone dies. So they don't cut out like any stamped images, but you can get them in all different shapes. These are sets. They come like this, so they'll nest together. But this is where, doing your layers is fun because you're not just cutting it with a paper trimmer.
Yeah, so instead of using the punch that we've been using, we can now die cut circles.
Yeah, and it'll give a little stitching. This shape too, I really like. So we'll do one of these to show you how to do it.
Okay.
I use that. It's quite a bit. Now, we're going to go back to our platform here. And if you notice up here, it says using with thin dies. These are considered thin dies. So we need number 1.
Got it.
We also need number 2 because we're just building it up a little bit thicker.
Got it.
And actually, as this starts to warp, because this machine's really old, I actually put it underneath. It doesn't make any difference.
Okay. Is it just like the thickness to get it through the machine, right?
Yeah, and that way it just gives you a flatter surface there.
Okay.
And then you're going to do your 2 cutting plates. So you will do a number 3, your cardstock, your die.
Yeah, I assume it goes that way.
Yep.
That's what punches it.
Because that's what cuts, yep. And then another number 3 on the top.
Okay.
Now, before we run this through, I want to talk about those clear plates just a little bit.
Okay.
Notice how, brand new, for the video, I pulled out a set of brand new ones.
Okay.
These are the ones here that I've been using. And you'll notice how this one is really cut up on both sides.
Yes, it is.
And these plates are meant to, eventually they have to be replaced.
Okay.
They will warp a little bit. They'll get pretty cut up. When they get beat up really bad, you have to get new ones.
Okay.
Now, here is my tip, because people are always wondering, well, which one, which way do I put them in this and that? I have gotten myself in a really good habit of when I have 2 plates, I always use one as the cutting plate.
Okay.
Notice this one, it's got marks on it, but not bad.
Yeah.
So I will always cut down on that. And then the one that I don't cut on is always my top one.
Okay.
So this one really never warps. And so that way, when this one gets really bad, what I generally do is move that to my new bottom one, and I take a brand new one to become my top one.
Got it.
And then this one that's down here for the cutting, what you really want to do to make these last as long as you can is rotate them around. Flip them this way, flip them that way, even, different ways. And I'm not super good. You'll see I tend to use the middle. You really should try to use different parts, like maybe cut on that part, cut way down on this part.
Oh, okay. Spread the love.
Yeah, spread the love. So the more you do that, actually the longer these plates are going to last for you.
Okay.
So we'll take out these brand new ones and we'll keep using the old ones. So again, we have 2, 1, and then 2 of the number 3s. Stack them up and bring your machine in, and you will just run that through. Now sometimes, especially with the really large dies, I don't think this one, I know with
that bottom warp, it's getting stuck.
Oh, okay. Then,
Can I turn it that way?
yeah, that'll work too.
That will make it go in easier.
Yep.
There we go.
You kind of push it to start it. You'll see the handle start to turn, and then crank it through. When you hit that die, it's going to take a little more pressure.
Yep, I felt it.
Sometimes the really big, intricate dies may take a little bit more pressure to get them through. And look at that.
Hey.
And you got all the little stitch lines in there. So you can see here's a card I made with one of those dies. But again, we kind of stepped it up from just cutting a layer to using that. And you can see the embossing on the back. Again, quick and easy card. We just stepped it up with the die cutting, the embossing, and so forth.
Yeah.
So there's that one. And here's just another one showing another set of dies. These standalone dies are so much fun because you get different shapes, and sometimes they get, the different borders on them. So those are great. Again, I use these all the time. I would say this one, stylish shaped dies, is probably my most used because you get the banners and circles and squares. And then I use that one a lot as well. So, I kind of said good greeting set you need a good standalone die set too once you start getting into the die cutting. So there's die cutting. Now we're going to go another step with the die cutting.
Okay.
Okay, so after we've used standalone dies, the other kind of dies are the ones that coordinate with the stamp set.
Okay.
So you'll notice here, you'll stamp your image and then be able to die cut it instead of fussy cutting it.
Oh.
So usually a die set, and I say usually, not all the time, but it will have dies that cut out different images, but then it will also have some other ones that don't cut stamped images, but they kind of highlight your stamped images for when you're putting a card together.
Okay.
So this one, I love these greenery. I'll actually take these and put them with other stamp sets as well to get the greenery on that. So let's go ahead, and I already stamped a couple images for you from here, the flower and the leaf. So why don't we die cut the leaf? So do you remember the sandwich?
So it's going to be the same sandwich that we just did?
We just did, because it was a thin die.
So we had the 1, the 2, and the 3. Here's the 2, but you're warped, so we're going that way.
Yep. And then our 3s.
And then the bad one down.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to go here. And then here.
And then a little tip, I keep just a small pack of Post-it notes by my machine, because I like to, once you get it lined up exactly where you want it, stick a Post-it note to hold it in place. Because otherwise, once you put that other plate on top, and it can actually go onto the stamped image, it's not going to affect the cutting or anything.
Oh, okay.
And then now put your other plate on, and that'll just help it. You know, you'll have them slide around a couple of times and have to restamp an image, and you go, oh yeah, now I know why we hold it in place. And we can go ahead and run that through. So especially with like the real little images. Crank that through. And then if you lined it up right. And then that Post-it note, you can usually use it several times. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Perfect. If you have a nice white border all the way around, you know you lined it up good.
I'm a professional now.
You are. So we would go ahead and cut the flower and cut some other ones, but we'll just bring in our completed card here. And you can see where there's just several of the stamped images and they're die cut. And then here's some of those lovely greenery pieces that are part of this die set that just really add a lot to that card.
And I'm assuming that we could have like done this die and you could like run multiple dies through at one time.
Yeah, you could. You could stamp several and use your Post-it note and stick them on.
So we don't have to do it like one by one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do a bunch of them at one time. But again, this card is not hard. It's still pretty quick and easy. It just takes more time to cut all those pieces out. But all the different things we've been doing to step it up. Look at what a pretty card
it's so
it
pretty
makes.
and so much dimension to it.
Mm-hmm. So that is kind of combining embossing and die cutting with your stamping and then the other die cuts to put on there. So there's that. Now we do have one other thing to share. And this is what is called a hybrid embossing folder.
Okay.
Even though we did embossing folders already, these are like so cool. So there's only a few of these. I think every catalog they might come out with maybe one. There's a whole set of dies here. Actually, I didn't put them on a sheet for you to see. But one of the dies that comes with this is this big one that actually matches up with an embossing folder. So you can literally die cut and emboss at the same time.
Oh.
So you're going to go ahead. Now, part of the trick here, when you look at this, the Stampin' Up! Logo has to be up.
Okay.
Your die is going to be cutting surface down. There you go. Now it should go in there and it should match up with the images. And you'll feel it kind of fall into place.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Now you got to kind of hold it as you're going, and at the same time put a piece of cardstock in there and hold it so that die doesn't slide around, and then close it up. It's like you got to kind of pinch it and pinch it. There you go. And then here, I'll hold this while you get your plates, because now again we're doing a 3D embossing folder. So it's number one, our embossing folder with our die and cardstock. And then number 4, and run that through and let the magic happen. This is kind of like the granddaddy of it all. You can We're cutting and embossing at the same time. And it is a little bit harder.
Probably the hardest one to crank through, but it's still going.
It's still going. And sometimes the machine might crack and pop and make some funny noises, but that's okay. And then you open it up and you will see you've die cut and you've embossed. So all the little sand dollars pop out. And look at all the fun texture you got out of that. Just one step. Now you can also, and I have other videos where I have actually just die cut and then stuck the die cuts in here to emboss. If that's a little bit easier for you, but recently I started doing it this way and it works fantastic. So we'll bring this one in and you can see a very simple card. We just have the sand dollars. I love sand dollars. I love finding those on the beach. And just add a simple greeting on there with some designer series paper and a very quick and easy card. But just a fun, I mean, kind of over the top embossing and die cutting all at once. So I think, let's see, let's bring these back in so we can just show
all of these cards that you've made.
like all the possibilities. Once you get a Stampin' Cut Emboss machine, you know, we've got just our die cutting or embossing adds so much dimension to your projects. And then you start using those standalone dies. So you get more shapes, more texture. And this is, you know, this really is kind of an over-the-top card. Some people would look at this and go, wow, that's really hard. I can't do that. But it really is simple. It's just a lot of stamping, die cutting, and then everything is stuck together using adhesive and dimensionals. Okay, real quick before we go, I want to bring in the little guy. This is the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. It's just like the big one, only littler. It's so cute. And we didn't show on that big one. The big one folds up the same way. So just pop your plates down. Now the mini, same concept. It has plates, but they are a little bit different. So when using this one, you have to follow this one here for your dies, and it'll tell you right on each one, embossing folders and so forth. But the mini is great for small spaces or traveling and so forth. Uses the same dies as long as they fit.
Yeah, because I feel like these sand dollars won't fit through there.
The sand dollars won't fit through there. Plus,
I can't lift it up. There we go. Yeah.
It's not going to fit. There's some other big dies that won't fit through there. But now all of these would.
Good.
So, you know, more and more of them will fit. But I want to give you a little trick because some people, personally, I think the little one's a little bit harder to use.
Okay.
Because it's so lightweight and it just tends to flop around. And so you almost have to crank it harder.
Okay.
So I have found that you really have to stand because you have to hold this down as you crank. And then with these plates, let's see. So we would have, let's see, let's just get an example. We'd have a 1 and a 2 with a die in between.
Okay.
They make believe there's cardstock in there. Actually, probably, usually there's 3 of them. What you want to do is stagger your plates. So if you can see that, I don't have them even here.
Right.
If we have one out a little bit further, then back, and then this one, you know, not all the way out. If you go like that, and I don't have cardstock, I don't want to run it through here, but when you get it started, it will grasp better and start cranking through right away.
Okay.
If sometimes because they're so thick, if you have these all even here, and when you start, you'll have a really hard time to get it started.
Gotcha.
So with whatever the sandwich happens to be, just stagger those plates and it'll go through like a charm. So that's the mini machine, just like the big one, only little. Well, Jess, now you've learned everything for cutting and embossing with the Stampin' Cut Emboss machine. What'd you think?
That one little guy can do a lot of work.
It can do a lot. And it adds so much to your card. So I think the trick just is to remember to get your sandwich right. And it tells you right on there what plates to use. And if you ever have like a hard time, like you go to roll it through and it won't go and it feels just too hard, double check your sandwich because chances are you don't have it right and then it won't go through. Or if it goes through way too easy and doesn't cut or doesn't emboss, again, you probably don't have enough thickness in there, so it's not. So it's all fixed to work perfectly. So I hope you learned some tips. Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, I know it's kind of a big investment, but if you are, you know, truly in this to stick with card making, you will use it a lot. It is It is fun. It adds so much texture and just really steps your cards up and still keeps them quick and easy, which is what we like to do. So I hope, again, you enjoyed this video. This was number 5, class number 5 in our Card Making 201 class. We'll have a link down in the video description to the blog post, and we'll have pictures of all the different cards that we shared with you and tips for the different types of products, the embossing folders, the dies, and all that stuff over on that blog post. So make sure to check it out.